Freezing my ass off. Stupid crystal, better do something.
Greetings, my son. I am your true father from the planet Krypton.
Krypton?
Yes, Krypton.
Don't you mean Krypton?
We pronounce it Krypton.
Okay. Wait, what do you mean father?
Yes, I'm your father. At least that's what your mother said.
So what does that mean? I've got like space powers?
Oh, no. Quite the opposite. In fact, you're vastly inferior to humans in every way. You need to get the hell off this planet. It will kill you.
Well, thanks for nothing, Space Dad.
Yeah, no problem. It's better count as child support, Lara.
Welcome back to the Out of Touch podcast. I'm Chris, that's Bill, and today we're watching Superman the movie from 1978, directed by Richard Donner. So Bill, what do you think of Superman the movie?
This is a classic, in every sense of the word, I feel.
Yeah, it's, for such an old movie, which, I've seen before, but it's still really good. I don't know, it's like one of the best, Superman, origins and everything.
Everything we've seen has always just borrowed from this,
Yeah.
a lot of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, I don't know, it's such a famous movie, Christopher Reeves, Superman, Marlon Brando as Jor-El, and...
Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor.
Yes.
Margot Kidder as Lois Lane.
Yeah, all iconic performances and an iconic movie. I guess, the first, I don't know, is this, the first, motion picture for, a comic book movie, or
No,
the
'cause
Batman movie?
We had the Batman movie in the 60s. That was a full-length movie. And even Superman had the Superman and the Mole Man movie that spun out the George Reeves series. But this is the first ever. We're putting money and effort. This is the superhero blockbuster film.
Right. So this is kind of the first superhero movie as we know them today.
They all come from this.
Yeah.
This is the granddaddy of them all. They all in some way owe something to this movie, whether directly or indirectly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's so iconic. It's funny, the way this movie begins, too.
It's such a weird beginning, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. With, the weird, fonts and stuff. But, just,
No, I'm talking about, the comic and
that
the
too,
curtain
yeah.
opening up.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
It is weird. It's also weird, Krypton, because it's, what's the deal with Krypton? It's, a weird ice planet. Oh, wait, no, those are crystals. Also, what's the deal with Jor-El? Is he a scientist or a lawyer? I'm not sure.
Well, I think he was there because he was part of the Kryptonian Council.
Okay.
Why he was pressing Final Judgment, I don't know. But all that exists just to set up the second movie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because this was originally envisioned as a two-part epic. They were going to film both at the same time, release them maybe a year apart or something. But production ran behind and they had to stop shooting for Superman 2 and just focus on Superman 1. That did have a consequence with the ending.
Oh.
Because the big time travel ending, that was originally meant for part 2.
Oh, okay.
Which can be seen in the Donner cut of part 2, because they just we'll just put that ending and then there again.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there's much like superhero movies of today, lots of behind the scenes drama.
I bet. It's funny though, because even though this movie's from 1978, I still think the Superman costume looks pretty good. It doesn't have
padding
or anything.
Nope,
But
he worked out.
Yeah.
He worked out with Darth Vader himself, David Prowse.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think the costume looks really good. The S is pretty good. It's not as, I guess with newer Superman costumes, the S shield is more poking out of the costume usually, but this is just I don't know, it's kind of like a sticker, but it still looks good.
It's the best version of the classic style suit, I would say.
It's funny, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and Christopher Reeves, his performance as Clark Kent is really good. He's just so unassuming that you would never think this guy's actually Superman.
He's slouching his shoulders. He's changing the pitch of his voice.
Yeah.
He's doing all this effort to make it seem no, these are two different people. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It's just he's just a mild-mannered reporter, just like in the comics. And the phone booths. those things don't exist anymore. But he uses one. They're changing the Superman.
No, he doesn't.
I thought he did.
No, they
he
made a
tries
joke
to do it,
No,
and then he goes into the door.
He walks past the
Yeah.
1970s open phone booth as like a little wink and a nod to the time before when
Yeah.
that would be how Superman would change, and then he goes and uses a revolving door.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because this was after the era of phone booths being like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They were just there. They were just the phone on the street.
So weird. Just a phone on the street.
It's how they were for a while.
Oh yeah.
It's the bank of phones.
Yeah. I don't know. We get Jimmy Olsen in the movie. I guess they don't really name any of the other Daily Planet reporters in the movie. I think.
No, they're all kind of just background characters.
Yeah.
It's just Lois, Jimmy, Perry, Clark. That's it.
Yep.
The core.
Yeah. The busy, bustling news office. Just like there's so much going on in here.
Yep.
I guess it was 100% like a newspaper
Yes.
in this. Like it wasn't like it's a newspaper, but also there's like a TV element to it.
Which I think at the time, though, in the comics, it was.
Okay.
Because I think I've read in like around this time, like Clark Kent was doing like news anchor stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just like no, it's because it's classic. We gotta be classic Superman, so he's just a reporter.
Some of the special effects in the movie, like his flying seems kind of, I guess it just seems like a lot like more floaty in this than it does in like later movies, like in Man of Steel,
Well, it's a
where he
lot-
just kind of like erupts out of like, into the sky. This is more like just gonna like float away because like Superman.
No, there's a couple moments where he shoots off, but yeah, obviously he's not causing everything around him to explode. Cause
Yeah. It's not like, he's getting ready to take off and there's like cracks forming in the street and like pebbles rising up and stuff. It's just like it's just like floating away.
he shoots up and maybe some dust flies. That's about it.
Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of like interesting rewatching this because there's like little things that like I never really picked up on where like he's in the spaceship as a baby and he's like, I guess like being like educated sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
And like I guess like Krypton knew like a lot about Earth because he's like explaining stuff about like Earth history and things where like I was just like, wait, why does he know that?
I don't know.
Also, it's funny, there's this one line in the movie too that like I'm like, oh, that's where that comes from with like the 28 known galaxies or whatever. And I was just like, okay. Like
Shocking. Famous movie gets
Yeah.
quoted.
very different Lex Luthor also. He's just like a
Yeah.
super villain.
Well, this is before he was reinvented in the 80s to be the businessman Lex. So all you really had was mad scientist Lex. So they he's also a bit of just a con man in this.
Yeah, I like him though. Like I think it's pretty cool. I like how he has a lair. Like it's in like the subway and it's got a cool like pool that like it's I guess converted from like an old train station.
Yeah, yeah.
And everything. But yeah, he's kind of like a super genius villain.
I love his plan. It's so ridiculous, but I kind of love it where he buys up all the useless land out in the Midwest that nobody wants for pennies on the dollar. And then he's like, I'm going to sink the West Coast and make a new West Coast that I own.
I like how he has the one henchman like Otis and like he's like showing the plan and like all those towns have like, Lex, whatever. in front of
Lexville or
them.
Luther
Yeah.
Town.
And then he just like, it's like Otisburg. Wait a minute. Otisburg. That's like, that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Frequently in adaptions, you'll see a Otis or Miss Tessmacher pop up. Otis was in Superman and Lois recently
Oh, yeah.
as one of his little cronies, and they
It's fun, Yeah, he's like different. He's still smart. Kind of like ridiculous in a way too, where he's just like, oh, this like meteor is a piece of his planet. I'll call it. Like, I don't even know if he calls it kryptonite.
he does call it kryptonite, which I guess is a name he coins.
Yeah. And then like he's just like, it'll probably weaken Superman because science.
Yeah, he
Like-
just takes
like-
a swing.
Yeah, it's not even like one of those things where like, something happens and like he realizes the connection. It's just like he's immediately like, oh, that's kryptonite and that's Superman's weakness. Because movie. And
Because-
comic book.
People know what kryptonite is.
Yeah. It's also interesting too with this movie because like in some ways like I know it's not the first superhero movie, but like I guess like in many ways this was like the first like serious adaptation of like a
Yes.
comic book property in general, where
yes.
like we're gonna like actually do this like seriously. It's not gonna be, like a joke like Batman 66 was and stuff.
Not for lack of trying on some of the producers' parts.
Oh, really?
That's one of the things they clashed with Richard Donner about. Richard Donner wanted to take it seriously. I once heard a story where it was explained that when presented a script, Richard Donner thought it was so bad that he took the job so he could protect Superman from that terrible, terrible script. He's like,
Yeah.
I gotta do it. I gotta save Superman.
It is kind of interesting because I guess like at this point Superman was around for like I guess like almost 30 years at this point. So like Richard Donner probably grew up reading Superman comics.
About 40 years, actually, because 1938.
38. Okay. I don't know why I was thinking like 48 for some reason, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he probably read comics. He probably watched the old George Reeves show and heard maybe even listened to the radio show and stuff.
Yeah. The Fleischer animations and
Sure.
stuff.
Those are all over, in theaters and on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, it is like, it's the like comic book movie prime in some ways.
Yeah, and it's its influence is still felt today. This movie is why the S shield is the symbol of the House of L, because Marlon Brando thought it would be cool to wear.
Yeah.
So that became the family crest.
It makes sense. I mean, everybody else had like crests. I guess that came from this movie too. And
Yeah, that's all spun from there. The design of the Fortress of Solitude is carried over in a lot of adaptions and stuff. Just the idea of the Jor-El hologram and a crystal, or sometimes, in Man of Steel, it was essentially a flash drive, basically. But it was
yeah.
crystal-ish,
Yeah.
It all gets derived from this.
Crystal technology.
Hell, a lot of the structure of this movie, I know Superman the movie was a big influence on Christopher Nolan, especially Batman Begins. And even though they're not structured the same, the narrative of their lives kind of follows similar beats. I remember noticing, because you get the before time where, on Krypton, or Bruce Wayne as a kid, and his parents get killed and the planet goes boom, and then you see them as young men who then disappear for long periods of time and then come back and they become the heroes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess essentially like Superman just like kind of went and like trained in the Fortress of Solitude for like a decade, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just like showed up again.
And even his debut as Superman, it's not one thing, it's a whole bunch of things, which was kind of copied by RoboCop, where it's like, oh, RoboCop's first night out. What does he do? He does a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Which is cool, it works really well. But I don't know, it's really good. I'm just like shocked how good it is still, because, it's a really old movie, but like...
It's, it cast a big shadow over that series. It's like a high bar that they're still hoping to meet in the public eye.
Yeah.
It's... There's a contingent of fans of Man of Steel who are always super bitter. It's like, why are you always comparing it to Christopher Reeves? Christopher Reeve was really good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like Man of Steel a lot, but I can't say that I don't think Man of Steel is better than this movie. It's, like, different, but, like, this is really good. Like...
Because there's an emotional through line for Clark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, it's like kind of like a very like early era of Superman too, before like kind of like the stuff we grew up with, like the Lex Luthor being like the businessman.
Yeah.
And I guess with us, like the cartoon with like, the Krypton and Brainiac connection, which, wasn't really a thing yet.
They had the connection because he steals Kandor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's that backstory element. Sometimes they say Kandor being taken to stabilize the core.
Right. They never really go into like any detail about like what exactly is happening with Krypton. Like,
No, there's
Jor-El's like, the planet is gonna explode, and it's like, shut up, Jor-El, you don't know anything.
Yeah,
It's like, and I forbid you to leave the planet for some reason.
fine. Me and my wife won't leave the planet.
Yeah,
It's like, why'd you say it like that? No reason.
shut up. Hey, look, crystals, they're everything.
So I would recommend, if you like this movie, if you haven't seen it, there's a extended cut, sometimes called the TV cut. It's like 3 hours long.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, because last week I watched the original and I refreshed myself with the extended cut today and last night.
Okay.
And it's, there's a little bits. I'm like, all right, a little of that. Some of that's unnecessary. There's a couple of interesting scenes. There's like another scene with Superman and Jor-El after he does his big reveal, which I thought was kind of neat. There's a scene going to Lex Luthor where instead of just bursting in, he's just like, haha. Like Lex Luthor shoots him with a bunch of machine guns and flamethrowers and like tries to freeze him.
Oh, wow.
So he's throwing a bunch of stuff at him. Like, well, maybe this will slow him down, in case this green rock is just a green rock.
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's some other little bits here and there too.
Yeah.
It's like a longer Lex Luthor trying to get the missiles bits and just a whole bunch of other little things. Some stuff are like, yeah, okay, yeah, I see why you cut that.
Yeah. I mean, I do like, the scene that they show, like, Superman being bulletproof when, like, him and, like, Lois are, like, being mugged. And, like, he's all like, oh, we better do what he says, Lois. And then, like, the guy shoots him and he, like, catches the bullet. And,
pretends
like,
to faint.
Yeah.
Kind of smirks towards the camera a little. They kind of paid homage to that in the first Wonder Woman movie.
Oh, yeah, I guess they did.
Yeah,
huh?
they get, like, mugged in the alleyway.
Yeah.
It's just straight out of this. It's
Yeah.
just another movie that's just like, oh, gotta...
Just do that scene.
Just do Superman.
Yeah. I do like also like Jor-El saying at the beginning of the movie too, when it's like, well, he'll go to Earth and because of like the environment of Earth, he essentially says like his potential will be like limitless, like, which is like interesting, which is like, huh, okay.
1970 Superman. It's
Yeah.
pretty powerful.
Yeah, seriously. It's just like his like top speed could be unfathomable, and it's just like, well, yeah, because he went back in time by, I guess, like reverse the rotation of the Earth, which I'm like, okay, like
Some would say it's like, oh, well, that's just a visual representation of what's happening. Then
Yeah.
why is he re-rotating?
Yeah.
Then why is he spinning it back the other way?
yeah. It's like also, it's like if Earth is rotating that way, does that mean just like everything's happening in backwards?
I don't know.
At that point,
I guess.
yeah.
We see everything going in reverse.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I don't know. It's fun still. Like,
Well, I remembered another little moment that's only in the extended version. I get confused because I've seen this movie on TV a bunch. So sometimes a lot of those the scenes are in the TV version. So
yeah.
it's sometimes I'm like, oh, why didn't that happen? Oh, I guess that's only in the TV version. So you remember in the beginning when he's like young Clark and he's running around the train
Yeah.
and we see like the little girl being like, Mom, Dad, look. There's a little more to that because we find out that little girl is Lois Lane.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
Huh.
but extra bonus fun fact, her parents are played by Kirk Allen and Noelle? I forget her name, but the original Lois Lane and Superman from the movie serials.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
When he's like the kid in high school and just running after the train and stuff.
Did you notice that it wasn't Christopher Reeve? It was just some
Yeah.
other guy
Yeah.
dubbed in his voice?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, cause I'm like, that's not Chris Reeve, right? Doing that.
No,
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw this movie when I was like a teenager, I thought it was Christopher Reeve with his hair combed forward.
Yeah, but yeah, they kill off Jonathan Kent. Then we go to the one hilly spot in Kansas, unless Kansas is not as flat as everybody says it is.
Non-controversial opinion if you ask me, but Jonathan Kent just dropping dead is better than Jonathan Kent getting killed by a tornado for some reason.
Yeah,
Because at least Superman learns the lesson of I can't save everybody, even though I have all these powers.
yeah. In Man of Steel, Jonathan Kent, like, telling Superman not to save him is more like, don't reveal your powers, because humans are dumb and they'll just want to dissect you.
And his response to be like, how?
Yeah.
Just grab a knife and just break it. How are they gonna do that?
It's like, I'm Superman.
I think nothing can hurt me.
Yeah. Except emotional stuff.
Except, I don't know, if you die.
Yeah.
That might hurt me.
Yeah. Who knows? But I don't know. It's good. But yeah, I guess it was Superman's dad being dead like a thing in the comics.
For a long
or-
time, both Kents being dead was a thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the awkward transition in the original movie serial where Clark saves his dad from a tornado and his dad gives him a speech about great power and great responsibility. I'm looking. I see what you're doing, Stanley. I see you copying homework.
Oh man.
And then, the narrator's just like, his parents died shortly after that. And I just sat there, was like, what happened?
Well, it was like was like the 30s, so you know,
I
a
mean,
host of things.
Traditionally, the Kents were really old when they adopted Clark.
Okay.
So they raised him to a point and then passed away, and then he went off and became
right.
Superman.
They were like in their 50s, and then like.
I guess they were their 50s, but they looked older.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were old. They were like old when they
Well, I
adopted
mean,
him.
when they found him, they were like 50, and then by the time he's like 20, they're like 70.
Something like that.
You know, all the cigarettes and asbestos back then.
And, you know, radioactive baby spaceship.
Oh yeah, that too.
Let's go with that.
Oh no. It's like a weird like wrinkle. It's just like.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
They buried it in the barn. They didn't put no lead on it.
I guess that's true. But yeah, you know, it is kind of weird in the movie too when like Superman's like, you know, being interviewed by Lois Lane, and he's just like, I can't see through lead. It's just like, why is he telling people his weaknesses?
He really shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Or at least he should have asked her not to print that.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, but it's also weird too that like, you know, with modern sensibilities, it's like, you know, you watch like newer stuff with Superman and like, you know, because he's Superman, he could just like go home in a blink of an eye. But in this, it's just like, goodbye, mother. I will never see you again.
I mean, he does. I mean, we don't see it, but, you know, he talks about sending her money and stuff. So he clearly goes to visit.
Yeah.
He was gone for a really long time.
Yeah. But it is just kind of fun because it just makes it seem like it's like you'll never go home after this.
Yeah, well, we never see her again because she's dead by the third movie.
Oh, no.
And we see him trying to sell the Kent farm in the fourth movie.
Oh, whoa. He's selling the farm?
He's busy.
Oh, man. He's not going to live there. Like Superman and Lois Superman.
Well, they never quite sealed the deal. Well, I mean, they did the deed, but they never tied the knot.
Okay. This was before Superman was allowed to get married.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed to have a happily ever after.
Yeah.
No one was.
Yeah, seriously. It's just like the burden of being a hero.
Exactly.
Great power and responsibility and what have you.
Yes. Stolen by Spider-Man from Superman.
Because of these great powers, your speed and strength, your X-ray vision and super-sensitive hearing, you have a great responsibility.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm just saying it popped up in a Superman thing first.
Yeah, because that's true. Because Spider-Man didn't come out until like the 60s.
Yep.
So,
It must have been a phrase or something before that. I don't know.
yeah, who knows? Something Romans used to say.
Sure, let's go with that. Let's go with the Romans.
Yeah. I don't know.
Someone said that to Julius Caesar before he, I don't know, killed a bunch of guys.
Maybe. But yeah, you know, yeah, I always find it weird too at the end of the movie when like Lex Luthor gets caught and like he's just like, it was me, Lex Luthor, I did it, and I'm bald. And I'm like, was that just to be like, see guys, he is bald, just like in the comics.
Well, Gene Hackman wasn't shaving his head.
Yeah.
He was willing to wear a bald cap for one scene.
Okay. He never came back.
He was in Superman 2.
He was in Superman 2. I haven't seen Superman 2 like
And he's in
as
Superman
much.
and he's in Superman 4.
Really?
Yes, because he did not come back for any of the reshoots for Superman 2, but they shot enough of him
Okay.
that they didn't really need to. At least they shot around it. And he refused to come back for 3. So there's not Lex Luthor in part 3. He's not
Okay.
Lex Luthor, Chris. He's not
Okay.
Lex Luthor.
Not Lex Luthor.
He's not Lex Luthor.
Okay.
But then I guess with the Salkins gone and Cannon running the show, and I don't know, he needed some money, and they wrote him a check. He
Okay.
came back for part 4, alongside John Cryer as his nephew Lenny.
Huh.
Yes.
Okay.
Long before he was ever Lex Luthor, he was Lenny Luthor.
Wow. Man, I gotta rewatch these like older Superman movies because, like, I've seen the first one like a couple times, but like I think the other ones I've only seen like maybe like once.
I used to see 2 all the time when I was a kid. I saw 2 long before I ever saw 1.
Really.
It was on TV a lot when I was a kid.
I don't know. I remember seeing 1 more than 2.
I didn't see 1 until I was in high school.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Like everything about 1 I've seen. Like 2 is like the one that I'm like kind of like always forget about. I'm
That's
like,
the one with Zod.
I know, and I've barely
before
seen it.
Zod.
I know, I've hardly seen it.
The whole thing with the hand crushing and he picks him up and he throws him, that's great. I
Yeah.
love that.
I know he has like the S, the cellophane S.
Cellophane S.
Like,
And there's 2 versions of that movie now.
yeah.
The Donner cut, the precursor to the Snyder cut.
Oh man. DC movies were being meddled with right from the beginning.
Exactly, right from the beginning. Day 1. When they fired Richard Donner off of Superman 2 and brought in Richard Lester, and he had to reshoot like, I don't know, 75% of the movie to get director credit.
Man. Just like Ron Howard in Star Wars.
Yes. Except Superman 2 was a huge hit.
It's true. But I don't know. It's fascinating. Superman, the motion picture. It's really good. You should go watch it.
Do you think the new one will live up to it?
I don't know. You know, I'm sure the new one hopefully will be good. But I don't know. It's hard to say because, you know, being somebody that really likes Man of Steel, I still like would be like, yeah, Man of Steel is really good, but it's not as good as this movie. So,
It's got that great score.
yeah, I mean,
That
that
theme.
music is great.
Oh man, anytime it plays, I just smile. It's
Yeah.
great. It's John Williams, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Superman theme. It's like, it was just like nailed at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, especially like the opening credits, they play like the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know, you know. It will be interesting to see what the new Superman movie, which is just called Superman now,
Yep.
what will that be like? It has crypto in it,
Does have crypto in it.
so we'll see. I mean, I guess like the only thing about the like older Superman movies is just like yeah, he fights Zod, and then I guess he doesn't really like fight any other comic book villains except for like Lex Luthor, right?
Yeah, because then he just fights himself and a computer, and then he fights Nuclear Man.
Okay, yeah, because they never did like Brainiac or, you know.
No, I think the computer was supposed to be Brainiac at some point,
Okay.
but you know, it's not.
Yeah.
And you know, he doesn't fight Bizarro; he just fights himself
Yeah.
in a fight that may or may not be in his mind. I'm not sure what was happening there. He
Interesting.
kind of divided into 2.
Okay. Well, I don't know, Bill. Do you think the new James Gunn Superman will live up to Superman 1978?
I don't think anything truly can. It's kind of embedded into pop culture.
Yeah.
But darn it, I hope it gives it a college try.
Yeah.
Because Superman needs the win, more so than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he's the first superhero pretty much. So it's good that this new DC universe starts with Superman, even though it technically had that cartoon. But we should talk about that another time.
I guess.
All I'll say is I thought that cartoon was okay, but I thought it was a little bleak at the end.
Well, it's not over.
Yeah. But Superman 1978, really good. Go watch it. And I guess that's the Out of Touch podcast for this week.
You'll believe a man can fly.
Shortly after this, Clark's foster parents passed away.